What I'm about to share with you was never supposed to leave the room where it happened. A conversation between a classified government source and something we can only describe as a non-human intelligence. The topic? An object called 3I-ATLAS, an interstellar visitor that defied every law of physics we understand. And the answer this intelligence gave? It changes everything we thought we knew about our place in the universe. My name is Dr. Sarah Chen. I'm a theoretical physicist who spent 15 years working on classified projects you'll never read about in any academic journal. What I'm sharing today will probably end my career. It might even put me in danger. But after what I witnessed, after what I learned, staying silent is no longer an option. Because if this information is true, and I believe it is, then humanity is standing on the edge of a revelation so profound, so terrifying, that it will redefine our entire existence. Stay with me until the end, because the final piece of information the intelligence revealed is something that will keep you awake at night, something that suggests we have far less time than anyone realizes. Let me take you back to October 2017. That's when we first detected it. Pan-STARRS telescope in Hawaii picked up an anomaly, an object moving through our solar system at incredible speed, following a trajectory that made no sense. It wasn't a comet, it wasn't an asteroid, it was something else entirely. The scientific community named it Oumuamua, which means scout in Hawaiian, a fitting name, though at the time no one understood just how fitting it really was. The object was cigar-shaped, tumbling through space in a way that suggested artificial construction rather than natural formation. Its acceleration patterns defied conventional physics. Some scientists proposed solar radiation pressure, but the mathematics didn't add up. Others suggested outgassing, but no cometary tail was ever observed. Harvard astronomer Avi Loeb publicly suggested it might be artificial, a light sail from another civilization. He was ridiculed by much of the scientific community. His career suffered. But those of us working in classified programs knew something the public didn't. Loeb wasn't crazy. He was closer to the truth than anyone realized. But Oumuamua wasn't the real story. It was just the beginning, the warm-up act for something far more significant. In January 2019, another interstellar object was detected. This one was different. It was moving faster, its trajectory was even more inexplicable, and most disturbing of all, it seemed to be adjusting its course as it approached our solar system. This object was given the designation 3I-ATLAS by the International Astronomical Union. To the public, it was described as another interstellar visitor, perhaps a comet from another star system. Interesting, but not alarming. Scientists published papers, the media covered it for a day or two, then everyone moved on. But behind closed doors, in facilities you won't find on any map, panic was setting in. Because 3I-ATLAS wasn't behaving like any natural object. It was decelerating in ways that violated our understanding of orbital mechanics. Natural objects don't slow down in deep space without external forces, but 3I-ATLAS did. It was emitting signals, faint but unmistakable, in frequencies that suggested artificial origin, signals that pulsed in mathematical sequences, prime numbers, ratios that appeared intentional, and most terrifying of all, it appeared to be scanning our planet. Every time we aimed radio telescopes at it, the signal patterns changed, as if it knew it was being observed. Our satellites detected focused beams of radiation emanating from the object, sweeping across Earth's surface in systematic patterns. Whatever 3I-ATLAS was, it was conducting a detailed survey of our world, our technology, and possibly our civilization itself. I was brought into the project in March 2019. My security clearance was upgraded to levels I didn't know existed. I signed documents that essentially erased my legal right to ever speak about what I was about to see, and I was introduced to a team of scientists, military personnel, and intelligence officers who all shared the same haunted look in their eyes. The look of people who knew something the rest of the world didn't. The facility where we worked was designated Site 7, located beneath a mountain range I cannot identify. Getting there required 3 separate flights, 2 of them on unmarked aircraft, followed by a drive through tunnels that seemed to descend forever into the earth. The base itself was a marvel of engineering, a completely self-contained city capable of housing hundreds of personnel for months without surface contact. We were tasked with one objective: figure out what 3I-ATLAS was, where it came from, and what it wanted. The team included astrophysicists, xenobiologists, cryptographers, linguists, quantum physicists, and specialists in fields so classified they don't have public names. We represented 12 countries, though officially none of our governments acknowledged we existed. The first briefing I attended laid out everything they'd discovered so far, and it was far more extensive than I'd imagined. For months, we analyzed every scrap of data. We built models, ran simulations, consulted with experts in fields ranging from astrophysics to xenobiology, and the more we learned, the more terrified we became. 3I-ATLS wasn't just moving through space, it was studying us. Every time we pointed our instruments at it, it adjusted its position. It was avoided our attempts to analyze it while simultaneously analyzing us. It was a game of cosmic cat and mouse, and we were definitely the mouse. We discovered that the object had made previous passes through the inner solar system, approximately every 3,600 years based on orbital reconstructions. That number sent chills through everyone who heard it. 3,600 years, almost exactly the orbital period attributed to the hypothetical Planet X in fringe theories. But this wasn't a planet. This was something that had been visiting us throughout human history. Had it observed the rise of Egypt, the fall of Rome, the Industrial Revolution? How long had we been under surveillance? We also detected something else: faint transmissions emanating from 3I-ATLS, not directed at Earth, but toward deep space, toward a region of space approximately 600 light-years away, in the direction of the constellation Lyra. It was reporting back, sending data about us to something or someone far beyond our reach. Then, in August 2019, something happened that changed everything. We made contact. Not the kind of contact you see in movies, with radio signals and mathematical messages. This was something far more direct, far more unsettling. One morning, a message appeared simultaneously on every classified computer system connected to the 3I-ATLS project, not sent through any network, not transmitted by any known means. It was just there, as if it had always been there, waiting for us to notice. The message was simple: we can answer your questions about the visitor. Are you ready to know the truth? The debate that followed was intense. Some argued it was a hack, a sophisticated cyber attack by a foreign power. Others believed it was some kind of mass hallucination or system glitch. Our best cybersecurity experts examined every line of code, every system log. There was no intrusion, no hack, no explanation for how the message appeared. The systems that received the message were air-gapped, completely isolated from any external network. Some weren't even connected to power grids, running on independent generators. Yet the message appeared on all of them simultaneously, down to the nanosecond. The statistical probability of this occurring naturally was so close to zero it might as well have been impossible. But deep down, I think we all knew what it really was. It was them. The intelligence behind 3I-ATLS, or perhaps something else that had been watching all along, demonstrating capabilities that made our most advanced technology look like stone tools. A decision was made at the highest levels of government. We would respond. We would ask our questions. A classified source, someone whose identity I cannot reveal, was designated as the primary communicator. I was there as an observer, along with a dozen others in a facility deep underground, far from any civilian population. The room was sterile, Cold, filled with equipment monitoring everything from electromagnetic fields to quantum fluctuations. We were taking no chances. Faraday cages within Faraday cages, quantum encryption on every recording device, military personnel stationed at every entrance. Though what good they would do against something that could bypass our best security, I didn't know. The source sat at a terminal and typed a single question. What is 3I-ATLS? For 30 seconds, nothing happened. The silence in that room was suffocating. I could hear my own heartbeat, feel sweat forming on my palms despite the cold. Then text began appearing on the screen, not typed one letter at a time, but materializing in complete sentences, as if the response existed before the question was even asked. 3I-ATLS is a probe, an autonomous intelligence sent by a civilization you call the Architects. It is one of thousands distributed throughout this galaxy, monitoring the development of species that have achieved technological capability. You are not the first, you will not be the last. The room went silent. Someone whispered a prayer, someone else started crying. I felt my hands shaking as I scribbled notes, trying to maintain some semblance of scientific objectivity even as my worldview crumbled. One of thousands. We weren't special. We weren't unique. We were just another data point in a survey that spanned the galaxy. The source typed another question. What is the purpose of the monitoring? The response came faster this time. Assessment. The Architects seek to identify species that have the potential to join the galactic community. But potential is not enough. Many species destroy themselves before reaching the threshold. 3I-ATLAS determines whether humanity will survive its adolescence or fall into the silence like so many before. Before we move forward with what happened next, I need you to understand something. If this information resonates with you, if you feel that people need to know what's really happening above our heads, then please hit that subscribe button right now. Share this video with everyone you know, because the forces that want to keep this secret are powerful, and the only way the truth survives is if enough people hear it. Don't let this message disappear into the algorithm. Subscribe, like, and share. Now, let's continue with what the intelligence revealed next. The source's hands were trembling as they typed the next question. How long have you been watching us? Longer than your recorded history. The Architects first seeded monitoring systems in your solar system approximately 12,000 years ago, during the period you call the Younger Dryas. They observed as your species nearly went extinct. They observed as you rebuilt. They have been waiting to see if you would learn from that extinction event or repeat the patterns that led to it. 12,000 years? The number hit me like a physical blow. That was before the pyramids, before Sumeria, before anything we consider civilization. They had been watching us since we were barely surviving the last ice age, watching as we discovered agriculture, invented writing, built cities, split the atom. Our entire history, from cave paintings to space stations, had been observed and cataloged by intelligences we never knew existed. The implications were staggering. How many pivotal moments in human history had they witnessed? Did they watch as the Library of Alexandria burned? Were they observing when we detonated the first atomic bomb? What did they think of us? What patterns had they identified in our behavior over millennia? One of the military officers in the room couldn't contain himself. He pushed forward and typed, "Why reveal yourselves now?" The response came with what I can only describe as a tone, even though it was just text on a screen. We have not revealed ourselves. You detected our probe. That was not intended. 3I-ATLAS experienced a malfunction in its stealth systems during its approach, a consequence of passing through an unexpected debris field. Your detection was accidental. However, now that contact has been established, certain protocols require us to provide limited information. You have earned the right to ask questions, even if you may not be ready for the answers. The classified source looked around the room, at all of us, seeking some kind of consensus on what to ask next. Finally, they typed what we all wanted to know. What is your assessment of humanity? Will we pass the threshold? The delay before the response was longer this time, almost 2 full minutes. When the text appeared, it was longer than any previous response, and its content would haunt me for the rest of my life. Humanity exists in a critical transition phase. You have achieved nuclear technology, artificial intelligence, genetic manipulation, and are approaching quantum computing capabilities. These are the markers of a species at the threshold. However, you have also maintained tribal warfare, resource competition, ideological division, and planetary degradation. The statistical models are not favorable. Of the 47 species the architects have monitored to this stage of development, 38 have failed the threshold. Failure takes many forms. Some destroy themselves through warfare, some collapse their biospheres, some create artificial intelligence that supersedes them, some simply lose the will to continue and fade into extinction through demographic collapse. Others encounter resource scarcity they cannot overcome. A few develop technologies they cannot control and trigger cascading disasters. Only 9 species have successfully transitioned to what the architects call Stage 2 civilization. These are species that have achieved interplanetary colonization, unified governance, sustainable resource management, and integration of biological and technological systems. They have learned to cooperate rather than compete, to build rather than destroy, to think in centuries rather than quarters. Humanity shows markers consistent with both outcomes. Your fate is not yet determined. You possess remarkable creativity, adaptability, and resilience. You have survived multiple near-extinction events. You have built extraordinary technologies, but you also display concerning patterns of self-destruction, tribalism, and short-term thinking. The window is closing. Someone asked, their voice barely a whisper, "How long do we have?" The source typed the question. The answer came immediately. Based on current trajectory analysis, humanity has between 80 and 120 years before the threshold closes. After that point, the patterns become irreversible. You will either have achieved the necessary unity and technological maturity to join the galactic community, or you will enter terminal decline. 3I-ATLAS will continue monitoring until the outcome is determined. If humanity fails, the probe will move on to observe the next species in this sector. That is the function it was built to perform. 80 to 120 years, less than 2 human lifetimes. The cold, mathematical certainty of that statement was somehow worse than any dramatic doomsday prediction. This wasn't a threat, it wasn't a warning, it was just an observation, like a doctor noting the progression of a disease. The questions continued for another 3 hours. We learned things that I still can't fully process. The architects themselves are a collective of the 9 species that successfully passed the threshold, working together for purposes we cannot yet comprehend. The galaxy is far more crowded than we imagined, but most species never make it past their home star system. The Great Filter is real, and we're approaching it rapidly. We learned that the universe operates on principles of selection, that conscious civilizations are tested by the very technologies that enable them to reach for the stars. We learned that the architects don't intervene, don't save species from themselves. They only observe, record, and occasionally communicate with those who detect their probes. We learned about the Fermi paradox, why we haven't detected other civilizations despite the statistical probability of their existence. The answer was chilling. Most civilizations don't survive long enough to become detectable. The window between achieving radio technology and either ascending to stage 2 or falling into the silence is typically less than 500 years, in cosmic terms, a blink of an eye. We learned that Earth has been visited by other probes, not just from the architects, but from other sources, some with purposes we couldn't begin to understand. The galaxy, we discovered, has rules, protocols, systems of organization that operate beyond human comprehension, and we were just becoming aware that these systems existed. And we learned one final thing, something that wasn't an answer to our questions, but a statement the intelligence volunteered as our session was ending. One more thing you should know. 3I-ATLAS is not the only probe in your solar system. There are 7 others placed at various points throughout your history. Most remain in stealth mode, but their presence means that the architects consider humanity a species of particular interest. This is not always positive. High interest can mean high potential, or it can mean high risk. Species that show the capability to become either great partners or great threats receive additional scrutiny. You should consider carefully which category you wish humanity to fall into. Then the communication ended. No goodbye, no closing statement. The terminal simply went dark, and despite every attempt by our best technicians, we never established contact again. In the weeks that followed, there was intense debate about what to do with this information. Some argued for public disclosure. They believed humanity had a right to know, that transparency might actually help unite us in the face of this cosmic challenge. Others insisted on maintaining secrecy, arguing that the information would cause mass panic, economic collapse, religious upheaval, and societal breakdown.
The arguments were fierce, sometimes violent. I watched colleagues I respected come to blows over the question of disclosure. One scientist in our group suffered a complete mental breakdown and had to be sedated and removed from the facility. The weight of what we knew was crushing. Intelligence agencies conducted psychological assessments of how the public might react to such information. The results were not encouraging. Computer models predicted everything from mass suicides to religious wars, from economic collapse to complete breakdown of governmental authority. The consensus among those making decisions was that humanity wasn't ready. In the end, classification won. The official story was that 3I-ATLAS was just an unusual comet, interesting to scientists, but nothing more. A few papers were published in academic journals, carefully stripped of anything that might raise questions. The data we collected was buried in classified databases with security classifications so high that even most government officials didn't have access. The people who knew were sworn to silence under threat of imprisonment or worse. Several members of our team disappeared after expressing intentions to go public. I don't know what happened to them. I learned not to ask questions. And 3I-ATLAS, it continued its journey through our solar system, eventually departing back into interstellar space in December 2019, just as a global pandemic was beginning to take hold. Some of us wondered if that timing was coincidental, if the probe had seen something in humanity's response to crisis that informed its assessment. Did the architects watch as we hoarded supplies, fought over resources, politicized a health crisis, and let hundreds of thousands die while we argued about masks and vaccines? Did they observe our inability to coordinate a global response to a global threat? Did they note how quickly our social fabric frayed under pressure? If they were assessing our readiness to join a galactic community, what grade did we earn during the pandemic? I left the project in early 2020. I couldn't continue working in that world, keeping those secrets, knowing what I knew about humanity's timeline. The cognitive dissonance was destroying me. Every day I watched the news, watched humanity tearing itself apart over increasingly trivial divisions, and I wanted to scream what I knew. But I stayed silent. I honored my commitments, even as I watched the clock tick down. I tried to go back to normal academic work, but how can you focus on publishing papers about theoretical physics when you know there's a cosmic clock ticking down to humanity's judgment day? How do you teach students about the wonders of the universe when you know we're probably going to fail the test? Every lecture felt like a lie of omission. For 4 years, I kept my silence. I honored my commitments, even as I watched the world tear itself apart over politics, pandemics, and endless conflicts. But I can't stay silent anymore. Because if what we were told is true, if we really only have 80 to 120 years to get our act together, then people need to know. We need to know what we're facing. We need to know that we're being tested, that this isn't just about political parties or national borders or quarterly profits. This is about whether the human species survives or joins the long list of failed civilizations scattered across the galaxy. The truth is, every day that passes without people knowing feels like a betrayal, not just of humanity, but of the future generations who will inherit the consequences of our ignorance. They deserve to know what's at stake. They deserve the chance to make informed choices about the kind of world they want to build. I'm sharing this knowing the consequences. My security clearance will be revoked. I'll likely face legal action. Some will call me a liar, a conspiracy theorist, someone seeking attention. I've prepared for all of that. I've made arrangements, left documents with trusted individuals, ensured that even if something happens to me, this information will continue to spread. That's fine. I don't need people to believe me. I need people to think about what it means if I'm telling the truth. Because here's the thing that keeps me up at night. The intelligence that communicated with us, whether it was truly the architects or something else, made one statement that I haven't shared until now, something it said at the very end, almost as an afterthought, that has haunted me every single day since. After the formal communication ended, after the terminal went dark, a single line of text appeared on every screen in the facility simultaneously. Not just the computers connected to the project, but every screen, phones, tablets, monitors, even the digital displays on equipment, all showed the same message for exactly 3 seconds before disappearing. The message was this: the others are already here. They've been here for a very long time. Some of them don't want humanity to pass the threshold. You should probably figure out who they are before time runs out. Then it vanished, leaving us sitting in that underground facility, staring at blank screens, realizing that everything we thought we understood about the situation was incomplete. The architects and their probes weren't the whole story. There were other players, other intelligences, and some of them apparently had a vested interest in humanity's failure. Who are they? What are they? Why would they want us to fail? These are questions I don't have answers to. Questions that terrified the people in that room so much that the entire final message was classified at a level above what I had clearance for. I only know about it because I saw it myself before they could shut everything down. In the 4 years since, I've looked for clues, patterns in unexplained phenomena, anomalies that might suggest interference in human development. And I've found things, disturbing things, events throughout history that look different when viewed through the lens of potential outside manipulation. But I can't prove any of it. All I have are questions and suspicions. What I do know is this: we're not alone. We've never been alone. We're being watched, assessed, and possibly influenced by intelligences far beyond our current understanding. Some might want us to succeed, others might want us to fail, and we're running out of time to figure out which is which. The threshold is closing. 80 to 120 years. That's all we have. Less than 2 lifetimes to determine whether humanity joins the stars or joins the silence. And somewhere out there, 3I-ATLAS continues its journey, carrying with it the data it collected about us, an assessment that will determine how the architects view our species for generations to come. I've told you everything I can, everything I know. Now it's up to you to decide what to do with this information. Share it, research it, question it, but most importantly, think about what kind of species we want to be, because apparently someone is keeping score. If this story has opened your eyes, if you believe that truth matters more than comfortable lies, then I need you to do something for me. Hit that subscribe button, smash that like button, share this video everywhere you can, because this information needs to spread. The more people who know, the harder it becomes to suppress. And maybe, just maybe, if enough people understand what we're facing, we can actually come together and pass this threshold. We can prove that humanity deserves a place among the stars.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And thank you for being brave enough to consider possibilities that most people would rather ignore. The truth is out there. Sometimes it's closer than we think. Stay curious, stay vigilant, and whatever you do, keep looking up.